What the fuck just happened? Oh my god, it zoomed in. So, a couple of you guys during the last stream, we wanted to see if the title really disabled the super chat. So, do you guys see a chat this time? Because I put COVID in the title again. Can you guys type something if there's still a chat, or did they disable it again? Did they really disable it again? Oh, and by the way, one thing I didn't say in the last stream about Kamala Harris is that her family was actually the biggest slave owners in Jamaica. So, that, I guess, the person that reminded me of that said, you know, this thing about her with the slaves in the California prisons, keeping people past their release dates so that they can do free labor for the state. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. She comes from a long line of slave owners. Thank God that her and Biden are here to save us from racism, right? Okay, the chat works. So I don't know if our theory stands. I mean, I don't know how else, why else the chat. I mean, maybe I could have pressed something when I was setting up the live stream. Maybe maybe my theory about them disabling the chat because they didn't like the subject matter has fallen to pieces. Or maybe they don't catch it every time. Who knows? I don't know what happened. But that's the only reason I jumped back on here, because I have streamed for 3 hours tonight already. 2 hours. This is 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours. The first one was an hour and 40 minutes, and the second one was an hour and 20 minutes, I think. So that's 3 hours, right? Yep. I should have brought the guitar down or something, you know, as we can have a kumbaya movement after all of this talk of genetically engineered viruses and slave-owning black women and incestuous pedophile presidents. So psychedelic, man. I hope everyone's feeling groovy. God. And I hope you understand, I'm not trying to be negative. I bet I fucking do look tired. It's like midnight or something, right? And I've been talking for 3 hours. It's crazy. I managed to do this every night this week, I think. And Sunday, I didn't do a public one, but I did the secret stream. So every day I've been live streaming, and every day I repeat a few subjects, but I have managed to say different stuff about other crap and different junk and some things even. Every night, every fucking night. There's a lot of shit in the universe that's happening and stuff to talk about, I guess, you know. Have you never taken LSD before? Yeah, I do have tips. I do have tips. You can't untake LSD. Thanks, man. You can't untake LSD. And trust me, even with my level of experience, man, I mean, I can, you know, smoke DMT, and I can be in the whole entire, what do you call it? Like reality, like real objective reality, completely gone, entities all around me, and I can talk and I can walk and I can take care of other people, and I can, you know, do whatever I normally would do. but I've been overwhelmed by a relatively small amount of LSD recently, you know. So you really do have to be careful with it, and the reality is that I've been taking LSD for 30 years, and I've never been overwhelmed by it in my entire psychedelic career until just like a week ago or something. So you never know when it's going to happen, and you just really have to be careful. Um, it's an incredible thing, uh, but there's really nothing worse than a bad acid trip. I mean, um, oh, okay. Well, have you ever listened to like a good Grateful Dead concert tripping on LSD? That'll usually that's like the best thing you can possibly do, but it's got to be a really good one. Um, if you send me an email, I'll send you some suggested listening if you want, and that'll probably help. Also, there's a live Tool release that is not as well known called Salival, and that fucking thing is like, there are sections of like the song Third Eye that programmatic music is where you make music that is designed to be visually perceived, which might sound like a tall order, but it's and actually some programmatic composers will paint very specific pictures. There's a French piece that is supposed to be four people in a convertible, and they pull up to a stop sign, and the wind blows, and the guy's toupee flies off, and you kind of know what it is, even if you aren't told in advance. Like, it does sound like that somehow. And so, particularly the part where the guy's toupee flies up in the air. I mean, but that was not that hard. Frank Zappa used to do a lot of programmatic stuff where, like, TV would fly out of a window and splat on the sidewalk below, and it would be really obvious, or people walking upstairs, you know. But Tool is like creating like shifting sacred geometry structured. Oh my God, man! No, don't listen to Grateful Dead albums ever. Don't ever do that. No one does that. No one that understands the Dead does that, because they they were relying on the unified field of consciousness to engage with, which didn't always happen. And so when they went into the studio, the way Garcia put it is that they didn't play too good for machines. They played for warm human bodies, and that's because what they were really doing was taking off LSD that or other drugs, unfortunately, that they could disengage the filters that give us our singular point of view. And they claimed that they could actually like pop into each other's bodies and play each other's instruments, and like they could look out of each other's eyes, or they could go out into the audience and see from the perspective of people in the audience. And I think it's true that they could get that high and still function, and that consciousness will allow you to do that kind of shit. And when that would happen, I mean, and you had, you know, sometimes 100,000 people, football stadiums packed so full that people would pass out and there was nowhere to fall down, that were all telepathically linked. And then that collective mind would take over the music. And so they would be improvising with like 8 people, 7 people on the stage, and things would suddenly erupt out of these like noodly kind of loose improvisations that like Bach would have been blown away by, like impossible musical structures that are just so intricate. And also when that happened, there would be this eruption of energy that would come out of the audience and the band that would catalyze the gnosis in people. Like it would change your consciousness forever. And you can, it's so powerful when those moments happen. Even in the recorded bootlegs, you can still perceive those moments, but you're never gonna get it if you're not tripping. And there's so much variation in the Dead's catalog, and so they played 3,000 songs or something. They never played a song the same way twice. They never played the same set list except once in 81 and 91, almost exactly 10 years apart. They swear they didn't do that on purpose, but it's like on the anniversary of the show, they played the same set 10 years exactly later. But I mean, if you think about it, that doesn't make any sense either. And it kind of, because I mean, most bands struggle to go out and play the same show every night for an entire tour. Nobody goes and just plays different songs every night differently. Even if they repeated a song, it's different, you know. Every guitar solo that Garcia ever played in Jack Straw was different. The drummers might start with a different feel, and the whole band would just launch off with the same feel as if they had planned it. And I think you kind of have to know how much of that is going on, how much improvisation there is to really wrap your head around how impressive it is, because if you don't realize all this, then you might not really grok how ridiculous what they're doing is. But I mean, they would literally go out and do the impossible almost every night. And everything contains its contradictions, so things embody their opposites. And so in order to be the greatest band ever, the Grateful Dead were also the worst band ever. And so on bad nights, it was like the Special Olympics of rock and roll. Like, you couldn't believe that a band could be famous and be that bad, that was possible. But then you might see them the next night, and you're like, your mind is blown so hard that you never recover. You know what I mean? So that's just how it was. And so certainly, man, I can direct you to some, because it was just so different, you know. Like, there was some stuff in the late 60s that was almost like heavy metal, you know, for that time period. And then, you know, in the 90s, it was, you know, really like, it even sounds modern by today's standards. I mean, their sound system, the speaker cones were made from surplus material from the space shuttle. They bought this piece of equipment from NASA that was used to figure out what the distance to really distant stars, because it could detect such minuscule vibrations, and they integrated it into their sound system so that they could tune every seat in a football stadium so that it sounded exactly the same no matter where you were. Like, crazy fucking shit. I mean, the Grateful Dead were really, like, the more you learn about it, the more impossible it is to believe, you know? It's like, this can't be a real thing. This is a fucking joke, right? The wall of sound that they built was so powerful that when they plugged it in, it caused brownouts in cities 5 times. I mean, can you imagine, like, how gangster is your band when you plug in your speakers and the power goes out in the nearby city? Like, that seriously happened 5 times when they had the wall of sound, because it was drawing so many amperages it caused brownouts in the town. It could project sound evenly for a half mile. So, like, when people think about the Dead as like this, like, hippie, like, laid back, like, that's not what it was. Like, when fucking Phil Lesh was dropping bass bombs through a 2-story fucking cabinet, like, it was retarded, you know? I mean, it's so over the top. Some guy actually built a scale replica of the Wall of Sound in his basement recently. It's 1/6 of the size, but I'm sure it's just an absolutely ridiculous thing to... But yeah, I mean, there's some shows from like 74, 72, 89, 90. They had a bunch of peaks, you know, and if you know where the peaks are, then you can kind of ensure that you'll never get over it. You'll never, I promise you. And here's the thing. I've told a lot of people to take LSD and listen to Grateful Dead in my life. And I always talk it up like this, and even more. And not one person has ever done it and come back and said, like, that it didn't exceed their expectations, no matter how much I talked it up, you know? Like, it's one of those things that, one of those rare things in life that, you know, like, things usually fall short of your high expectations, if anything. But the experience of listening to the Grateful Dead on a psychedelic is, like, way is gonna transcend your expectations, no matter what they are. Really, it's that fucking crazy. It really is. And then it teaches you a lot too, because you're like, okay, so what else am I failing to perceive correctly? Because your brain isn't sophisticated enough in its normal state. When you take psychedelics, I mean, you're using parts of the brain that normally have no electrical activity or fucking lighting up like crazy, and you have new neural pathways forming up to 1,000 times the normal rate. You have interregion communication where it's not normally happening at all. So your perceptual apparatus is on fucking serious overdrive, and I think that's what it is. It's just you are not capable of perceiving the subtleties that are actually there in your normal state of consciousness. So really, guys, I don't want to talk anymore. It's been 3 hours already. I just wanted to see what was up with the chat. So thank you so much for being here with me. And the email, I don't know if my email is in the description of my videos, actually. There are Facebook links and stuff. If you want to get in touch with me, you can. The email is illuminosis111@gmail. I'll put it in the description. Thanks a lot, you guys. Good night.